Welcome back to the Jumpify Labs podcast, the show for founders who want growth without the guesswork. Here we talk about the systems driving predictable growth, and today's guest is one of the most respected voices in value-based leadership. He's the founder and CEO of Remarkable, a best-selling author, and the trusted advisor behind leadership programs used by companies like Chick-fil-A, Delta, and Keller Williams. His work helps organizations build leaders worth following in a world where values often feel in short supply. Dr. Randy Ross, welcome to the show.
Jay, well, thank you. I appreciate the invitation.
The pleasure's all mine, Dr. Randy. For someone hearing your name for the first time, what's the simplest way to describe the work you do today?
We are the company's favorite partner when it comes to outsourced leadership development expertise. Jay, what I found is that there are a lot of organizations that do extremely good business and they do a lot of great industry specific training. But what they're not necessarily good at is leadership development. And it's probably one of the most highly needed, but often overlooked aspects of culture and organizational growth. So we like to consider ourselves as being your best partner when it comes to growing leaders worth following.
Such a catchy tagline. You work with organizations of every size, from Chick-fil-A, Delta, to also small and local teams. What do they get wrong about leadership?
Well, I think a lot of times organizations just have this assumption that if someone knows how to do a job well, then certainly they ought to be able to translate that information to someone else in terms of mentorship or guidance. But the reality is, you may have strong individual contributors. You might have, a subject matter expert, and the organization taps them on the shoulder and says, "Hey, why don't you lead a team? You've done such a great job for us. Why don't you lead a team?" And honestly, people who are experts or they may have contributed well to the organization don't necessarily have the ability, the competencies, the knowledge, the skill set to create a relationally rich environment. A lot of times we think it's common sense or it comes naturally to some leaders and they just assume it comes naturally to everyone else, and it doesn't. And so what we like to do is really provide everything that's necessary for someone to grow into a role where they can create a culture, an environment where people are inspired to bring their best to work every day.
And that reminds me of the saying that not every player is a good coach. Not every great coach is necessarily a great player. Like Marty Schottenheimer, longtime Chargers coach. He was never a great football player, but he was an outstanding coach.
There you
So
go.
yes, definitely. A lot of people will say that you have to be great, but the skill sets are not the same.
Well, it's like speaking. It's like public speaking. If you are someone like yourself, you feel very comfortable in front of a camera on a podcast and you think it comes naturally to you. Now, albeit you've grown your skills, but people look at you and they go, "Jay, how do you do this?" Because it would scare me to death. I'm not comfortable being filmed, or I'm not comfortable on stage. I'm not comfortable making a presentation. You and I both know that's a skill that can be learned. Now, it has to be honed, it needs to be sharpened. But the reality is, most people are scared to death to stand in front of an audience, whether it be 10 or 10,000. They have not just stage fright, they have death fright. They'd rather, they'd rather be dead than be on the platform. But you and I know it can be sharpened. It's a skill that can be learned. And likewise, there's so many aspects of leadership that can be learned over the course of time if you have the right competencies and skill set, mindset, understanding, and how to create that environment. And that's what we really help organizations grow in their capacity, because people don't quit jobs, Jay, they quit leadership.
Mm.
And a lot of times leadership is just a lack of being able to build authenticity and trust with your team. And so that's what we like to move in and help organizations do, is to elevate their game by equipping their leaders to lead well.
Randy, I want to talk about some of your methodologies, some of the things that you've discovered and how you're helping leaders, but I want to take us back just a moment. What's the moment or maybe experience that put you on this path towards helping organizations build healthier cultures? Because you don't just wake up and automatically know, hey, I'm really good at developing leaders. That had to come over time. So, what was that transition like?
Well, for me, I cut my teeth in the not-for-profit space. And if you think about, philanthropic organizations, organizations that give back and do good in the community, nonprofit organizations, they're driven by volunteer fuel. It's individuals who give their time and their energy. And so the question became really early on, how do you encourage people to give the best of who they are and their discretionary effort for any endeavor, but particularly in a nonprofit space, because you can't pay volunteers, right? Volunteers are doing it because they're driven by passion, they're driven by purpose or cause or mission or calling. And so in those early days of helping leaders be able to get more participation, get people to be more passionate about their involvement in the organization, it comes down to, are you creating an environment where people are inspired? Are you creating an environment that's relationally rich? Are you creating an environment that's driven by purpose and impact? And so then I took those learnings, that understanding into the corporate marketplace. And it's no different, because even though you're paying people to do a job, payment, I often say you can rent their hands and you can buy their heads for a season, but the reality is they're going to give you their heart voluntarily. And so how do you tap into the discretionary effort that everybody has, even in a for-profit environment where we know that financial remuneration is not the number one driver of performance? And how do you leverage that to help people grow and engage at a higher, deeply emotional level? And so that's kind of where the process began for me. There are a lot of nonprofits that could learn a lot about business from for-profit organizations, how to manage processes. But there's a lot that the companies could learn from nonprofit organizations in terms of how do you inspire and how do you engage your people at a higher level.
That is such a mic drop moment, how you relate the two different types of organizations, because I can't remember exactly what said. You could rent their hands, you could buy their brains, but they will.
They're gonna give you their heart voluntarily. You can't purchase that. And so you have to help people engage culture. Let's just put it this way: culture is how deeply people are emotionally attached to that endeavor. How we play
Yeah.
together in the sandbox of life. And so it involves the not just the behaviors, but the beliefs and the values that underlie that. And so we have to talk about how do we tap in to a deeper level of emotional attachment to the work experience.
That's a perfect segue to my next question, because I'll let you elaborate on this. You describe yourself as a raconteur, a creative storyteller. When did you realize storytelling wasn't just a speaking skill, but also a mechanism that can change how organizations behave?
That's a great question. And people always ask me, what is a Ray Contour? And because I use it on LinkedIn, and as I describe myself, and as you said, a Ray Contour is a master storyteller. And I love story. What you're doing is you're not only engaging the head, which is stimulated by information, but you're engaging the heart that is stimulated by connectivity, doing good, giving back. And I truly believe that people like to do good business with businesses that do good. So how do you tell the story of the good that your organization is doing? Because people, they want to know, are you in this just for the money? Are you in it just to make a dollar? Or are you in this endeavor to make a difference in people's lives? And if you're only in business to make a dollar, then it won't be too terribly long till people figure out that you're only in business to make a dollar and they will abandon your cause, because nobody wants to just throw more money into the system. But if they believe that your business is producing good in the world, that you're bringing value and you're giving back, then people will rally around a cause that they believe is doing good in the world. And so that's the connectivity that we're talking about. And people are the same. Team members are the same. Are we doing a job just to make more money for shareholders? Or are we doing good in the world? Are we giving back? Are we truly making a difference? And when you make a difference in the world, when you make a difference in people's lives, you will make a profit. Because here's a great lesson: people will gladly pay full price for those things that they deem bring true value to life. And when an organization brings true value to life, not only for their customers, but for their internal people, their team members, then you've got a good, powerful approach to business.
You are just dropping golden nuggets left, right, and center, Randy. I wanna segue again into another term, another methodology that you shared with me prior. Applied axiology.
Yeah.
What does that mean for a leader who's never heard the term?
Well, axiology is a strain of philosophy, and I'm a philosophy geek. I started studying axiology decades ago, and I love axiology because axiology at its core is it is the study of trying to define and measure good. What's good in the world, Jay? And so what axiology is all about, it's about values, value concepts, value constructs, bringing value, adding value. And everybody talks about, let's bring value to the world, but not how many organizations truly know how to do that on a structured, corporate level. And so we like to take the principles of applied axiology and show how those are extremely beneficial to any organization that, number one, wants to provide a great environment for their people, where their people are excited about participating in their endeavor. But then also, how do you create a movement of good in the world that can really make a difference, leave a positive wake in the world? So axiology is talking about, having been created for a purpose. Every organization needs to have a purpose, a vision, a mission statement. Do you fulfill the purpose for which you're created? And it's a powerful, powerful strain of philosophy, the thought process around which we then develop a construct to help organizations be more impactful.
Amazing. I'm learning so much already. Let's talk a little bit about your books. Chick-fil-A used your book Remarkable. They're using it internally. You've also authored several books on just culture and leadership overall. How has your thinking evolved from your first book to your most recent?
As you mentioned, our book Remarkable, we were very fortunate to have Truett Cathy, the founder of Chick-fil-A, write the foreword to the book. And it has been used internally for training, particularly in the fields at the owner operator level. It's not a book about Chick-fil-A, but Chick-fil-A uses it, and a lot of the principles and practices that they utilize from applied axiology to create value in the world are all explained in a great fun story to read, a narrative. That was our first book, but then we saw a real need to take those same frameworks, those principles, and be able to practically apply them. And so we wrote a book called Relationomics, which is the power of healthy relationships to drive business. And Jay, that's kind of the how-to book for managers, because if you want to take the principles and practically apply them and learn how to utilize these to create dynamic teams, then the book Relationomics is for you, because it talks about all the things that a leader needs to create the kind of environment that we're talking about. Everything from conflict resolution to good coaching conversations to confronting bad behavior, eliminating toxic behavior, getting into what we call the growth spiral. How do you encourage people to enter into a process that's healthy when it comes to their own personal growth and development? So it covers a broad spectrum of content that managers need. Then we wrote a book during COVID called Fireproof Happiness, which is about helping build resilience into the workforce. How do you help people emotionally prepare to face and embrace challenging times? And it's a book about hope. It's a book about, the power of hope and the efficacy of hope to build resilience, to increase impact. It's about health. It's about longevity. It's about team dynamics and how hope plays into all of that. And then recently we released a book called Make Life Good, and it's a book about corporate social responsibility. You might want to call it conscious capitalism, but it's all based around this idea that business should exist to make the world better. I often ask this kind of tongue in cheek when I do a workshop, what's the purpose of the business? And of course, everybody says, well, the purpose of business is to make money, which fundamentally may be true, but I think at the very heart of it is a bit misguided. And let me explain to you why. I mean, the reality is if you don't make money, you will be out of business. So we all understand that you need to make money, but here's what I would postulate, that the purpose of business is at its very heart to make the world a better place. It's to be able to create value in the world. It's to be able to create a movement that makes a difference in people's lives, because when we make a difference in people's lives, we will make a dollar. And it all goes back to this whole idea of giving back, connecting, doing good. And you know that. I mean, you and I could sit right now and make a whole list of corporate entities that have a very, very strong client base because those people are engaged emotionally because they realize that organization is doing good and giving back in the world. And we all like to be a part of that because there's something about human nature that feels good when you do good, feels good when you see good being done. And that's what inspires acts of kindness. So the book, Make Life Good, is about how do we, now that we've made a good living, how do we turn around and make life good by giving back to others? And it's again, it's a fun leadership parable that talks about engaging on a personal level to change the world for good.
It sounds like your books are tackling very specific topics. So that's remarkable how you were able to give us a quick, succinct summary of each of them. That also brings up to mind all these different challenges out there for organizations. What may be the toughest organizational cultural challenge that you've helped a client overcome?
Well, I think it's the one that everybody right now is saying they need help with, and that's attracting and retaining top talent. We came out of COVID, that turned the world upside down. It sort of changed the landscape of how we work together, everything from remote work to now how do we get people back together again to create a sense of connectivity because everyone seems to be more insulated and isolated because of the virtual environment that we've created. And so everybody that I work with across the board, it doesn't really matter what vertical or industry people might be in. The biggest challenge right now is talent. And so attracting and retaining top talent is critical. And the secret to that is creating a healthy, vibrant culture. And so that's where we work with organizations, but also in this whole idea, we have an immersive leadership development experience. And obviously, I travel the country and I do keynotes for corporate meetings and organizations, association meetings, and the like. And that's fun. But the one and done, it can be very, very inspirational, but it's going to be limited in terms of its impact. But what we are able to do is take our content, and thank you for what you said, because you're right. Each one has a message that when you layer them on top of each other in a progressive sort of a way, we believe that our immersive leadership development experience is a cohesive and structured way to be able to impart all of this information to your teams so that by the time they finish our 2-year immersive experience, they are they've received a master's degree in leadership. And that's what we want to take in organizations to help them because when we create team dynamics that are inspirational or relationally rich where people can thrive, then they're not only going to attract, but they're going to retain that talent and grow that talent over the long haul for the benefit of the organization. So that's what we're able to do. And we've seen that over and over again by providing our leadership development platform. We've seen turnover reduced. We've seen higher quality individuals come and be a part of that organization. So they're attracting more good talent. We're seeing leaders lead well. And so the performance is elevated in those organizations. So it's a trickle effect. But by utilizing our content, not only in the immersive leadership development experience, but also our digital content, we've been able to help give a lift to organizations.
And it all starts at the core. What's going on internally, which affects what happens externally as far as the bottom line and also attracting top talent, as you say. Randy, when you are looking at your current workload, what new projects, programs, or speaking, what has your attention right now?
Oh, good question. There are two things specifically. We have just found a new partner, a group called StoryPath, and we have put all of our digital content on a new platform. And so when we're talking about a consistent impact in an organization, yes, we can do the keynote. Yes, we can do single workshops. Yes, we can do the immersive leadership development experience. But one of the things we now can bring to the table is an opportunity to get our content all the way down to the front line. In the past, we've done a great job in terms of leadership development, but now we can take our content in microbursts of training that are delivered through text message to the front line so that everybody in the organization has an opportunity to get access to the content, which is powerful. And so in microbursts, what we're able to do is we're able to drop nuggets, mic drop moments for the front line. And then they can all begin to converse around that content. Because we like to say that people grow into the conversations that you create around them. And a lot of leaders are not necessarily adept at creating good, healthy, developmental conversations. And so this is a tool that any leader can utilize with his or her team to engage the team in more productive conversations. And so we're excited about that. And we also are working on a platform that we truly believe will change the face of philanthropy by better storytelling. And if you want to check that out, there's an app that you can download. It's Good Action, ION, all together. Yeah. Download the app, and then you can have the opportunity to tell stories that are stories of changing lives for good. So those are two huge projects that we're working on right now.
It's good. It's great you got that approval on the App Store. It's a little bit easier on the Play Store with Android, a little bit tougher on the App Store with Apple. Randy, for leaders that are resonating with your message, what's the best first step for them to engage deeper with your work?
Yeah, I would say probably pick up a copy of one of the books if you want to, if you're interested in diving into some of the content. But you can also learn more about what we do by going to drrandyross.com. Just DR, no period, drrandyross.com, and you'll see our offerings. You get a chance to hear, snippets of some keynotes that we've delivered at different conferences. There's an opportunity to reach out and get in touch with us. So whatever you would need to reach out to us, you can find it at drrandyross.com.
And just about one of your workshops, which you've already referenced in earlier parts of this conversation, what would someone expect when they bring you in for one of those engagements?
Yeah. So for a workshop, typically those are leadership workshops, but I've spoken to entire organizations. That's always a great opportunity for us to begin to lay some foundational principles. So whether we come in and we do a keynote on choose to be remarkable, or business powered by healthy relationships, or fireproof happiness, or make life good, there are a series depending upon the theme of that particular conference or corporate gathering. We can craft that specifically to each meeting to make sure that it resonates and we're on point when it comes to the terminology of the organization and what they're trying to accomplish. But our content, Jay, is rather evergreen, meaning that it transcends all business articles. And when you're talking about healthy culture, you're talking about employee engagement, you're talking about superior customer service. Those are things that apply to just about everybody. And so one of the things we've enjoyed is the ability to go into a variety of environments and deliver an inspirational, challenging address that gets people excited about learning more. And then, of course, we can always come back in and layer in our development program or the virtual content, whatever the organization may need. So we don't have a single cookie cutter approach. It sort of depends upon what's the most pressing need that that organization has, and then we try to craft a deployment that's going to make sense for them.
For those listening, if you want to reach out to Dr. Randy, he very generously shared his website. He's also on LinkedIn. He's got the app. It's good. It's called Good Action. Make sure you look him up. And if you like episodes like this, if you like stories from other leaders like Dr. Randy Ross, make sure you tune in to Jumpify Labs podcast for more. My name is Jay. Thanks so much. We'll talk again soon.
Thanks, Jay.